everyone, this is Angela. I'm back with another bonus episode. I recently had the opportunity to be interviewed by Jeremy Park for his radio program, CityCURRENT, that appeared on iHeartMedia. In the interview, we talk about personal branding, networking, and my book, Breaking the Rules and Getting the Job. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome back to the CityCURRENT Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. As we mentioned, we get to talk about careers, career coaching. So we have a specialist in that realm, a career coach at Copeland Coaching. So makes it easy when her name is on the building, but it's Angela Copeland. How are you doing, Angela?
I'm great. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. So you have a newsletter that I read all the time, and it puts out all sorts of great advice and stories for those that are job seekers. So this is your world as being a career coach. But when you talk about being a career coach, how do you define, when someone says, hey, what do you do at Angela, with Copeland Coaching and being a career coach, how do you define what a career coach even is?
So it's a really good question. I get it a lot, actually. And, it's a little different than something like life coaching, where you're kind of trying to figure out how you feel about things and whatnot. I work a lot with people who are looking to make a major career change, so from one field to another, and I really help them on those tactical pieces. It could be resume, it could be networking, LinkedIn, how to apply for a job, the overall strategy, and kind of rebranding yourself. I started my own career as an engineer. My first job, I worked at General Motors, redesigning parts on the Chevy Malibu, and most recently, I was a vice president of digital marketing at First Tennessee Bank. And so I
Two very different worlds.
Right.
So you know this very well.
I know this. It happened a little by accident, but through personal experience, I started being asked to help other people make similar changes.
So talk about where it begins, because obviously for those that say, hey, I'm looking to make a transition, what are some of the questions that you start asking them to help them prepare, but also to do a little bit of the soul searching?
No, it's really important. I think, at different stages in life, different things are important. So one thing we talk about is priorities. Is it more important that you make more money? Are you looking for a promotion? Or are you at a place maybe where you want more work-life balance? Like, do you want to do something that's a little less demanding on your personal time? So I think really that's the very first thing, is to get in touch with what it is that you're looking for. We also spend some time figuring out, what is it that you're good at? What do you like to do in your free time? What are some other things that you do or that you know about that maybe other people don't know about you, because that's not part of your current job? So we really go through a process where we kind of evaluate what are your interests, what are your existing skills, and then we kind of get some different jobs lined up, like ideas, and then the job seeker actually goes out and has meetings with people who do those jobs and goes into the buildings where the companies are and takes a look around to see, wow, I really relate to this company, I really relate to this job, or wow, this is really not what I pictured. I really don't want to do this job at all.
Do you find that people have a clear picture of, this isn't like, what I want to be when I grow up, but they have a clearer picture. So obviously, they get along this career path. They say, I'm not really happy doing this. I want to do something else, but I don't really know what that is. So in other words, they know they want to change, and they come to you obviously for that piece, but they don't really know what they want to do different. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And oftentimes they don't know what they want to do different. They know what they don't like.
Right.
They know what they've done before, and it's not working for whatever reason. But this is a really important issue, because in the past, a lot of times our parents, our grandparents stayed at a job until they retired. It was like your lifelong career. But nowadays people change jobs every 3 to 5 years. And so, it's a new idea that we have to know how to sell ourselves all the time. And we have to constantly be ready to reinvent ourselves and continuously develop our skill set. You can't just sit back, on one career forever and hope you'll, pick up a pension or a retirement at some point.
I know that I mentioned the newsletter. You've got an email newsletter that people can subscribe to. It puts out all sorts of good information. You also have a book, Breaking the Rules and Getting the Job. It's coming out January. So you've got that. You even have a book signing at the booksellers at Laurelwood Thursday, January 12th, 6:30 p.m. So great opportunity to see you in action and to see the book, get the first glance of the book, be able to pick it up. But talk about some of the things, because even in the newsletter you cover a wide variety of social engagement, being heavily involved in social media, especially LinkedIn, using that, networking and the power of networking, where to network, how to network. Let's kind of take those in different pieces. Let's start with networking, because I think this is a big one. Is people really struggle with, okay, one, I don't know, kind of what I want to do, but I also don't know anybody because I've been in my job and I've only been basically going to work and going home and spending time with my family. So I don't really have a sphere of influence that knows me, that knows my skill sets, that knows what I'm good at outside of that. And so I'm stuck in this machine of having to maybe apply online, which doesn't work super, super well. So talk about networking from your perspective.
So I think networking is honestly the most important piece of the whole job search, but you mentioned applying online. And I really think one of the biggest problems that job seekers face is that we're being conditioned by the companies that are hiring us. They say, go apply online, and if you're a good fit, we'll hire you. And we buy into that. We think like, hey, this is easy. I push one button on LinkedIn and I've applied, or I go onto the company website, they're going to contact me if I'm the right person. It's really not true. Like if you think about it, if you were a hiring manager, first you'd think, do I have any friends who might be interested in this job? And then you'd think, do I have any friends who have any friends that might be interested in this job? By the time that you're pulling resumes off the internet, you're pretty desperate. It's really not the way to land a job. It's very unlikely. So networking, like you said, it's the number one best way to find a new job. And I think the thing that stops people is that they're nervous. They're nervous and they're afraid they're going to bother the other person. I always remind them though, when you think of a business executive, often the person at the top is not always the smartest person in the room, but they may be the very best person in the room with people, and they may be the best in the room with networking. That is how they got to the top. It wasn't by being super smart. So when you reach out to them and you ask them for a meeting and you ask them for your time, their time, and you look at ways that you can give back to them and then it can become a mutually beneficial relationship, they're not completely caught off guard. This is something they do. It's something that they've done to progress their own career. So I really think there's a lot of value, as painful as it is. If you practice, you can get better at it. It's really not the end of the world. Probably nothing bad will happen if you start networking.
Well, and it's one of those, you have a podcast as well, and you and I have talked on your podcast about this, it's all the power of relationships. Everything centers on relationships, and as powerful as social media is, which it is powerful, nothing will ever replace the end human connection. The in-person connection. And when you look at it, companies today, they spend so much money training and trying to find that right person, they can't afford to make a mistake. And so to your point, it's like any other industry. The movie industry is an easy one where they hire their friends because they know that their friends will do a good job, and there's accountability, there's responsibility, there's integrity, there's all those things, but you're dealing with projects that are millions of dollars. So, 1 second mistake is $15,000. Mm-hmm. So in that world, when you think about it, to your point, you're right. They're going to hire people that they know. What's an easy place to be known? Going out and volunteering, building the relationships there, going out and networking and being seen at the right places, doing the right thing. And it's not passing out business cards like a shark. It's a matter of, what value, as you kind of mentioned, what value can I bring? And everybody has value. And especially when you start using LinkedIn to figure out what those CEOs are involved with, mm-hmm. especially as a nonprofit project, and saying, hey, I'd love to help out with that project. There's so many things that you can do strategically to build those doors, to open those relationships, to build a real relationship. And
I think you just got it right there. Building a real relationship. You don't wait until you're looking for a job, and you don't not reach out because the company doesn't currently have a job available for you, because no one wants to hire you that very first time they meet you. I know for me, I was previously a director of digital marketing at ServiceMaster, a big company here in Memphis. And a few years before I got that job, on LinkedIn, I found the vice president of digital marketing, and I asked him, hey, will you have lunch with me? I was early in my career. I really wasn't yet qualified to do that sort of job. But you know what? He had lunch with me. And after that, about once a month, I'd send him an email and I'd check in and I'd say, hey, here's a new website I'm working on. Here's a new thing I'm doing. How are things going in your world? Like, what's new with you? And about, let's say maybe a year and a half, 2 years in, he emailed me back and he said, hey, would you like to go have a coffee at Starbucks? I had no idea what it was about. I showed up in a suit because I'm kind of serious like that. And he
always be prepared though.
Right? He showed up in jeans and he said, hey, Angela, would you like to come and work for me? I never interviewed for that job. I got that job, director of digital marketing, with no interview, because I was willing to network with someone that I did not know. I was willing to be rejected, and I was willing to keep bugging him for, a year and a half. And over that time, he got to know me and trust me, and I was someone he thought of when he was looking to hire.
Well, and I would say out of the people that I know that have, jobs that they truly love, probably 90% are that exact same scenario. That they were either volunteering, had reached out, networking, whatever it is, but they built a relationship that it may have not been, exactly in that moment. And as you said, sometimes it's months or years later, but all of a sudden it comes full circle, and these opportunities that, are the jobs that everybody wants, the really, amazing job that truly is kind of your pie in the sky dream. That's how those jobs are created and made. And most of the jobs too, they're not necessarily even like a job description. It's like, hey, they realize they want someone because they're a leader, they're a catalyst, there's someone that's making a difference. They see them in another context and they're like, well, we want them to make a difference for us. And so they create the job. So, it's really cool stuff that I think, to your point, most of this world is not black and white. There's this huge gray area in between that you have to be able to be creative, to go and be proactive, to create for yourself. Talk about that, kind of context in terms of social media and some of the other things that you really dive into the nitty gritty for people that are trying to build out their next chapter.
I think social media is a great way, to look for a job. LinkedIn, you mentioned, is perfect. You can find these business executives who are hiring. You can network. I love Twitter as well for networking with business executives. It's surprising how many of those executives run their own Twitter and how you can actually kind of connect with them online. I've actually found a number of podcast guests through Twitter, just, reaching out, and they're there. It's the same thing with LinkedIn. Usually a business executive uses their personal email on LinkedIn rather than their work email. And so it's not being filtered in the same way, by their assistant. And they often are the ones who, respond. But you really have to take care of your LinkedIn. You have to keep it up to date. You have to have a photo that represents you well. And really, when it comes to social media, you need to think of it a little like a dinner party, right? When you meet people at a dinner party, there are certain things that you don't share right away. Things like politics, religion, there are certain views. You kind of get to know people. And when it comes to job seeking, it is the same way. Because when someone Googles you, the very first thing that comes up is your Twitter, it's your Facebook, it's LinkedIn, and they're going to immediately see those things that you've been posting. So your personal brand, and honestly, it's almost like your cover letter extends onto the internet in a way that really never has before.
Well, I think, nowadays, all of those it's just an extension of who you are. Your personal brand, it's really hard now to separate your personal and professional brand. And I think that's a big thing that people struggle with, especially college students, where it's like, wait a second, all of a sudden now my personal brand is my professional brand, and it goes both ways. But it's like everywhere you go, every touch point, it may be your personal Facebook, but ultimately people are going to go there in a professional setting to figure out, wait a second, is this person trustworthy? Are they a good person? Do they work hard? What's their the work ethic like? And so I think all of those become very important pieces of the puzzle, one, to represent you, but two, ultimately to get you the job that you really want to have.
I totally agree. It's funny. I give a presentation on personal branding quite often, and one of the very last slides that I have is a picture of my two brothers. I have two younger brothers, and in one photo, it's their Facebook photos, and one of them is wearing a tie. He's standing on the footsteps of the Capitol building in Oklahoma, where we're from. And in the other photo, my other little brother is posing with like this whole Harry Potter kind of getup, right? And I always show this because the thing that's really interesting, they look so different in these photos, but they're identical twins. And I took those screenshots at the same time. So they're giving off really different impressions of who they are just based on one single photo that they've got on Facebook.
Interesting. So, obviously you're coming into 2017, brand new year. I know this is a time when people think, okay, maybe it's the year I make a change. Maybe I keep, plugging away. Maybe I love my job, but I'm looking for an opportunity to rise up the ladder. Give us maybe one or two helpful tips, as you look at 2017 that you think are really important to kind of catapult into the new year.
There are some really important things to think of when you're thinking of getting a new job. The first thing is don't stop looking over the holidays. This is the perfect time to prepare. Go to those holiday parties, meet people, network, form relationships that are based on authentic connections. Don't wait until January to start looking. The next thing is take advantage of all the transparency that's currently online. We have more data at our fingertips than ever before as job seekers. Sites like Glassdoor.com let us know how much companies are paying. They give company ratings and reviews. We have more information than ever before. And again, the ability to find people on LinkedIn. So I would say get started now, use your online tools, and also don't count yourself out for a job just because you don't meet every single requirement. Be a little bit flexible and push yourself to apply for things that you can do even if you don't meet 100% of those requirements.
Nice. See, a wealth of knowledge, Angela Copeland, Copeland Coaching. So tell everyone where they can learn more about your work. Where can they sign up for the newsletter? I know you've got the book signing, obviously, January 12th, 6:30 p.m. at the booksellers at Laurelwood. The book is Breaking the Rules and Getting the Job. So tell everyone where we could learn more, follow the conversation, and get involved.
Yes, thank you. Please come to copelandcoaching.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find me on iTunes under Copeland Coaching. And I look forward to connecting.
Perfect. Well, Angela Copeland, thanks for all you do and for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.